Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. More challenges drama. Clayster at the centre of it once again with some roster changes for his lineup. His team was actually joking about dropping him from the team. He decided to do the same thing back to them just a few hours later. But also the OpTic guys, they're going to try and kickstart the revival of their season later on today against Paris. Not exactly going to be a walk in the park though, the OpTic guys believe, despite the fact that theoretically it should be the easiest matchup of the lot. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Videos to the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Plenty to dive into today. First of all, thought this was great from Crone. Learn the alphabet kind of like A to Z of Call of Duty edition, and just going through loads of classic clips and moments, honestly. So yeah, some of these are absolutely fantastic. Think you missed a couple out, maybe like Zip 'em Up for Z could have been a pretty good one, but you know, still I'm sure there's further versions of this to be made over time as well, and only 2 minutes 20 you can put on Twitter because he's not verified, unfortunately. Tough scenes. Good news though, actually, because after Crone kind of the Esports situation that didn't really work out, we've managed to make it happen that Crone's going to join us at Breaking Point to be the official lead reporter. So all the great reporting that he's been doing of Esports, writing the articles and like all the leaks and stuff that come out during the off season and even mid season as well, those are going to be now on the Breaking Point side as well. So great we could come to this agreement and keep Crone in the scene for a little bit longer, because I know he was thinking that if he didn't get an opportunity and if a publication didn't really want to come to an arrangement, then there was a question whether Crone would actually still be in the esports space. So glad we could come to an arrangement. Every single view you guys give to the Breaking Point YouTube channel definitely will help us support Crone and make sure this relationship can work. So we really appreciate all your support, and it's great that Crone can be joining us here because he's kind of been in the background for quite some time. It's great to have him fully on board. He'll be on the podcast and stuff more regularly as well. So great news all across the board, and yeah, I'm sure some great stories to come over the coming weeks and months as well as we get into what is going to be a crazy Rostermania period, honestly, after this year, because lots of teams right now are honestly kind of falling off the pace, and a lot of contracts are up at the end of this year as well. Let's talk roster drama then on the challenger side. Scrappy, it was his birthday yesterday. Happy birthday to my guy. I want to see him in the Pro League at some point or another. Now, well, Clayster, as he was saying here, to Fire, actually formerly Fire 40, now not going as Fire 40 anymore, unfortunately. Dude, I've been in challenges for 2 months and I've had 9 different teammates. So like, this is the craziness. In the European scene, generally the teams stick together a bit longer, which means that they can generally pick up more pro points from the kind of online tournaments, but also things are slightly less chaotic, right, in terms of like they can actually perform well for a longer period of time. That's kind of how it's been the last couple of years. In the North American side, often give it like 2 weeks and teams are making crazy changes. And of course, I suppose there's more talent over there theoretically, so there's more changes to be made, but kind of crazy that Brack on Clayster's team gets dropped from the roster. Free agent for Boston, won the last Challenger LAN, right? The last LAN event, Brack actually won it. He joins Clayster's team recently, and then Clay decided, and well, the rest of the guys on that team, that they wanted to part ways. We'll see that here in a second. So crazy situation actually, right? Because Brack, of course, like a very notable player back in the Black Ops 4 days, I'm sure you guys remember, on Midnight Esports, then went on to Luminosity Gaming. After that, I'm pretty sure he was on Toronto, but he was on the bench of that team the entire year, and since then hasn't really got a chance. I think a lot of pros thought that this guy was just, you know, more of a kill KD type player than actually playing to win. I think that kind of stigma didn't exactly help him, and that's maybe what Parasite is saying right here. Prior league stigma is crazy. Also being an AR, Brack wins the last LAN, has been placing really well lately, and his entire team got picked up by the league, and now he gets dropped before the last LAN tournament. Oof, been there, right? And it's kind of one of the things that Parasite is like, look, I'm glad I'm still not down there in the challenger side working through this stuff, because it's a difficult time being one of these players, especially because so many of these top guys have been in the Pro League before, like honestly not that long ago in many situations. So Clay and Fellow decide they're going to get rid of Brack and Mines and bring in Dave, Paddy and Venom, right? So an interesting change, honestly, the fact that they think, okay, this is an upgrade for them going into the Boston event, going into potentially the qualifier for the World Championship beyond that as well. So the Boston event is in a couple of weeks time. It's next weekend actually. I'm pretty sure it starts this coming Friday on the 8th of July. So that's exciting stuff, but of course many changes going down before that one comes through. And even, you know, as Clayster says in reply to Parasite right here, it was interesting stuff, and Clayster kind of gives some explanation for this and got nothing against the rest of the guys, just weren't meshing properly, decided to take a risk, switch something up, wish them all the best. We're still coming crazy for Boston, right? So interesting change. Clayster didn't really feel like they had what it takes, so they decided to make a move. But I'll share this clip actually that came out last night of when Clayster and the rest of the guys were kind of joking, and his teammates were kind of joking to him, okay, yeah, Clay, like we've had enough of you, we're going to drop you or whatever. And then of course they were kind of joking about it. And then of course just not too long after that, Clay actually decides to keep of course Fellow on the team, and then drops the other guys, and then makes this further move. So Dave, Paddy and Venom, of course, Venom last year on the Los Angeles Thieves roster, now joining Clayster and co. It's an interesting change, but it's crazy just to think that the top challengers teams are just stacked with players that were in the Pro League. All of them were in the Pro League either this year or last year.
Oh, we gotta stop A, dude.
Yeah, by pinching mid and left.
Yeah. Dude, Will's about to drop Clay by the end of the scrim. I feel it.
We all need to log in.
A Paddy's a free agent, Clay. Watch out.
Oh,
That's Will's
If I get dropped in challengers, bro, it's chalked for me, dude. Holy.
So these are some of the rosters then going into Boston event. So Dave, Paddy, Clayster, Venom, and Fellow. Brack, Mind, Welly, and Noisy was the team that Brack and Mind ended up joining. Cryptic, Kaiser, Yuli, and John. And then Mock, Hollow, Jintroid, and Rex is kind of the other ones on these trash bro teams. So like, look, we'll see how they get on, of course, going forwards. Let's talk briefly about this, actually, Toronto versus FaZe, because so far this year and last year as well, like, Toronto have got bodied by FaZe every single time they play them. They just get outskilled, honestly, and also their map count or their map kind of pool doesn't line up at all, and they just got destroyed yesterday. And I thought this is kind of funny, actually, here from Arcitys, threw the hot take in the trash man, saying that they should drop Arcitys for a Tatch. Like, it's always an interesting question there, because Arcitys so far this year, somewhat inconsistent at times, like, hasn't been so good in all their series, definitely does get the best out of this team. The chemistry there is fantastic, but I mean, there's been some questions. Could you replace Arcitys with anyone and upgrade that team? Is that even possible? I don't really think you'd want to do that ever. But of course, you might question if this team ever does fall off as to whether, you know, a change, like what change this team even makes actually to try and improve, if they could even do that down the line. But of course, for now, that's certainly not on the cards. Now, this I thought was rather interesting actually from Adam Adama over at the Toronto side. I think maybe he missed the end of this match or something, but he says, we can't win a chip if we can't beat these boys. I'll miss the ending between Takeover and Wi-Fi connection. Good luck. So like, I mean, yeah, of course, aBeZy and Cellium right here. So saying that effectively the Toronto guys, we can't win if we can't beat these guys. And Adam Adama, when I see his tweets and stuff, I like his commitment to actually winning, right? He's not there to be second place. He's not there to have a team that can kind of contend and be good enough. He's there to win. And as he says right here, if we can't win as Toronto, if we can't beat these guys, we can't win. Which basically tells me that, like, I mean, look, again, they lost yesterday. He probably landed on this fight or wherever he was going until they got 3-0'd and thinking, well, okay, here we go. This is probably our roster chalk, right? Because if this is his mindset and they can't beat FaZe, and like, as I said yesterday, right, the fact that OpTic and Seattle Surge, they built their squads this season to beat FaZe. Both of them have done that in grand finals. Toronto can't even get close to that point yet. And even if they do get there, I'm pretty sure they'd get banged out by FaZe in a grand final if that was to be the case this season. Probably implies to me that roster changes are up with this team at the end of this year, right? Despite how good they've been at times the last couple of seasons, last year especially, probably enough is enough. And that definitely creates some very interesting questions as to where some of these guys go. Cammy, CleanX, could they be available on the market? We'll see how things end up at the end of this season. Now, of course, wanted to mention this because FaZe winning yesterday 2-0 for them, London 2-0, New York 2-0, all with the same map count. Now, at the bottom here is OpTic Texas, right? They need to bounce back quickly. They need to bounce back today because map count is also be important. If they were to go 2-3 and go 2-1 of their remaining 3 matches, they would still need a good map count if they wanted to make sure they get through to the winners bracket at the very least. Guerrillas are probably chalked. We'll see how they go today, but of course they play FaZe today. That's going to be far from easy, right? But yeah, OpTic, of course, have a good bounce back series theoretically against Paris, but it's never necessarily going to be all that easy. So OpTic haven't confirmed, at least as of recording, that Illy is back officially, but like everyone said that Illy's back, right? They tweeted this out. We've got a Rambo, and even Rambo said that Illy's going to do kind of an update video, which might be coming later today or something, on exactly what was going on. I was kind of expecting it last night, but hasn't been the case as of yet. But Illy's back in the team, unless something drastic last minute changes here. Now look, they play Paris Legion today. This was a very similar story to what happened in Major 1, when they had a very bad start. They got reverse swept by London there. They then lost to Minnesota in Game 5. Then they played Paris and won their next 12 series in a row or something to win Major 1 and have a great run into Major 2 as well. Similar story could be emerging today. Of course, it's difficult to predict exactly that that's going to be the case again, but they do play Paris later on today, and what could be a bounce back series for them. But Donny Temp has said that, you know, they're playing well. They're going to be coming for blood right here, and Rambo reckons that have actually been destroying a lot of teams in scrims, the likes of London lately, and teams that they should be much worse than theoretically, and therefore, like, OpTic can't take this win for granted.
The Paris start might be beneficial for you guys. I mean, dude, Paris is, there's no one's a free win now. I don't know why people act like everything's a free win. They're like, even Paris is playing well right now. I've heard that those are, I'm not gonna talk about rumors, but like Paris, I've heard Paris is beating some good teams in scrims, so there is absolutely not an ounce of anything freebie at this point. We have to play our game and have to play at our best to beat any team in the league.
But the storyline does just line up slightly too well to not talk about, right? The fact that in Major 1, they did the same thing. In Major 4, they've started out the same way. They then played Paris in Major 1 and went on this streak to win the Major. They then played Paris again today. And of course, the difference is between Major 1 and Major 4, they had Illy in Major 1. Major 4 so far, they did not. Now, of course, they have Illy back today. And they seem to be better in scrims. That's at least what they say. Like, Rambo's been saying that pretty much everyone is unlocked to their full potential when Illy is in the squad, which is frustrating for him as a coach, but they need Illy back. And if he has been screwing with them well for the last few days, like, he seems pretty confident really with the rest of the guys. If he has kind of changed the way he's holding the controller and stuff to make sure it's okay for him, that he actually will be okay to play out for this rest of the season, right? And yes, Paris in theory should be a good starter for them. It means there's not so much pressure on Illy coming back in for his first series here. If they were playing a FaZe or something like that, there'd be a lot of pressure, right? Because then of course OpTic with Illy would have to kind of maintain the record of being undefeated against FaZe so far this season. But let's talk about the games for today then, because one of the teams they will be playing actually later on this week, at least tomorrow, is the New York Subliners. That's not going to be an easy game at all. Shotzzy versus Crimsix, like I'm pretty sure like they've never played each other before, apart from a few weeks ago when New York, of course, took down OpTic. And X likes to believe that Shotzzy just can't beat Crimsix, right? Maybe that's a different story with Illy on his sides, but of course it's going to be pretty big for New York depending on what happens today in this game. New York versus Seattle Surge, right? This is a rematch of what we saw in Winners Round 1 at Major 3 when it was a Game 5 Round 11. New York, I'm pretty sure, had a 3v2 advantage in the Game 5 Round 11, threw it away, it went to a 1v1. Mack, I think, clutched the 1v1 against Hydra, and then eventually, of course, Seattle Surge went on to win that series and won the entire tournament as well, and New York went out top 12. If that had been a different story, Subliners would have a lot more points here in the bracket right now. They'd have probably been in a great spot to qualify for champs, but losing that Game 5 Round 11 pretty much, well, arguably chalked off their season. It still, of course, is in their hands if they bounce back tonight and beat Seattle, and then, of course, they play OpTic, and, of course, at that point, New York will be on all confidence in the world coming into that OpTic series. Then, well, it's going to be far from easy for OpTic. So what this all boils down to is that this series tonight for OpTic is an absolute must-win, right? So here are the 4 games. Florida versus London. This is a massive series for Florida especially, because London, of course, beat the Minnesota Rokkr yesterday, and that was a massive loss for Rokkr, right? They're now still on 120. New York are coming for them. Like, Florida, of course, is sitting there or thereabouts as well. And this is Florida's chance. They know coming into this series that if they win, they really give themselves the advantage, because LAG are in free fall right now. Minnesota Rokkr aren't looking good, and they haven't been good on LAN either, so a massive win this would be for the Mutineers if they can win it tonight. I still think I might favour London slightly, but I feel like Mutineers in a 3-2 might not be a bad prediction here, because I just think maybe the search and destroy prowess here of this team with Major Maniac and knowing they pretty much must win might give them the edge. So I might actually change my prediction on that and go Mutineers. Then OpTic Legion, right? I think this series is going to be more interesting than people think, just because of the map set and the way it kind of lines up. Like, OpTic like to play a map like Bocage. Paris are pretty good on that one as well. They like to play it also. And Johnny, of course, their new recruit, is known as a great search and destroy player. So I feel like they can be more competitive across the board here. But look, Seattle Surge, of course, yesterday they lost to Boston and they pretty much destroyed Paris in the first series they played. So I've not really got that much confidence that the good scrims that Paris have shown are going to translate here. I'm going to take OpTic in a 3-1. I feel like Paris could maybe win a map here. OpTic might come out a little bit slow. Who knows what happens on a Bocage hardpoint game 1, but OpTic should be able to regain. That is like what I want to see here with Illy. Let's say OpTic do go down 1-0. Let's say they lose a Bocage game 1 or something, like with Prolute or like without Illy, even in previous seasons. It feels like that OpTic team mentally might have a tough time with that. But oh my god, we were down 1-0 to Paris. Like, it's going to go out the window, right? But I feel like with Illy back in the team, they should be able to keep their composure and close out this series. They're going to certainly need to, right? And every single map they win and lose is important here. They could do with a 3-0 victory here, just because their map cap right now isn't great. If they go 2-3, they are at serious risk of starting in the losers bracket in the major. So must-win series. They need to win as many maps as possible and losing as least maps as possible, which of course is pretty obvious, but it's especially important in this series. Surge versus New York, right? This is so interesting for me. This is the best match of the day, in my opinion, by a mile, just because New York are in a must-win situation. They need to get every single point they can. Seattle Surge had a pretty disastrous time yesterday, which makes me think that New York, I might just give them the edge. I still feel like Seattle are the better team here, but I don't know, like New York, they come with the fire. They smell blood maybe in the water, right? Because Seattle lost yesterday. It's not like Seattle are looking so good at the moment, of course, losing to Boston just yesterday. So New York are going to come out and they're thinking, okay, we can absolutely 100% win this series. And I'm going to say it's a 3-1 in the same fashion that Boston have beaten, but it might just be my bias of wanting New York to make this crazy run. And then FaZe versus Guerrillas. Don't think there's too much talk about that one. FaZe looked unbeatable yesterday. And then Los Angeles Guerrillas in free fall. They're pretty much chalked to this point of the season, I think. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button. Tell us YouTube God, this is a good video. And as like you should see it as well. And I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care of yourselves. And I'll see you next time.